Roger Waters talks the future of imperialism under a President Biden, from Latin America to Palestine, through the prism of the crimes revealed by Julian Assange. Welcome back. Today marks the anniversary of the Scotland Yard arrest of the world's most famous journalist and publisher Julian Assange, now being tortured, according to the UN, in a London jail ahead of a possible de facto death sentence in the USA. Assange and his WikiLeaks organization aided Edward Snowden's escape from US capture, as well as revealing the extent of US illegality around the world. One of Assange's defenders, Pink Floyd frontman Roger Waters, joins me now from New York. Thanks so much, Roger, for coming on. Just before we get to Julian Assange, I've just got to ask, because it's the first time I've talked to you since. Are you celebrating the election of Joe Biden as President of the United States?
No. No, that's a long story. What about the Labour Party getting rid of Naomi Idris? Yeah. She made a wonderful little thing for Double Down News, and I've retweeted it, but it was already getting great traction. Everybody should watch it. Everybody in England certainly has to watch it. Okay, I've finished.
I mean, well, you mentioned that Jeremy Corbyn has been suspended from the British Labour Party, the former Labour leader, with a cloud of anti-Semitism over him. What do you think Sir Keir Starmer should do?
Resign. Naomi Idris should be the leader of the Labour Party, not the Blair clone, Keir Starmer, who at the moment is. Naomi is a woman who tells the truth. And also she has a platform because she is a Jewish lady of long and great standing in the British Labour Party, and she must be heard. Julian Assange, obviously, it is disgusting that you and I are having to have this conversation again. And again, the powers that be in the United Kingdom will be intransigent and take no notice of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and blah, 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 or law or justice or any of the rest of it. They will continue, as they do, poodles that they are, to follow the instructions of Washington, D.C., which will be exactly the same, I suspect, from Joe Biden as they were from Donald Trump.
Biden called him a high-tech terrorist. What are you hearing from people about Assange's condition? Because there have been worrying rumours around that he's obviously in this prison, that coronavirus has caused a 24-hour lock-in.
Well, I'm hearing all the same things that you're hearing. You know, my sources in terms of the kangaroo court that we witnessed a couple of months ago were Craig Murray, mainly, who wrote detailed accounts of what went on in the court, which was clearly a completely set-up job. I'm assuming that the judgment from the magistrate of a foregone conclusion, why she suddenly at this late stage would kick off the traces. Well, of course, what's going to happen is that the defense, the lawyers representing Julian, will appeal, and it will drag on for another however long it's going to drag on. And the powers that be are hoping that Julian will die in prison. That's why they're keeping him locked down in Belmarsh, where he's at so much risk. I mean, it's quite extraordinary that he's been under lock and key for, what, 400 or 500 days now, having committed no crime except a minor bail infringement.
Well, Julian Assange has actually served his bail infringement time. The Liberator ruling expected on January 4, 2021. But Assange's own lawyer, Edward Fitzgerald, says that if Trump is re-elected, it will be worse for Julian Assange. And famously, of course, people around Biden are connected to Assange's former lawyer, Amal Clooney, and prominent Democrat Party liberals.
Yes, of course. If Trump had been re-elected, it would have been worse for everyone in the world. But that doesn't make Biden a good candidate. Biden is a dyed-in-the-wool, warmongering servant of the oligarchy that rules the United States of America and will continue to be so for however long he remains president of the United States. He's not to be trusted on anything. Do you think Joe Biden is going to move the American embassy back to Tel Aviv? Are you kidding? He's made it quite clear that he's the staunchest Zionist friend of Israel that could possibly be in office. So I hope that he and Keir Starmer are happy sleeping in that cot that they are going to share for the next few years.
Keir Starmer,
he has. About either of them having any power under any circumstances, because they're clearly not clear thinkers. They clearly don't believe in human rights. They clearly have no interest in the law. They have no interest in the United Nations. They have no interest in the Geneva Conventions. They have no interest in any of the things that are near to my heart and to your heart, Afshin.
I'm completely impartial, but you have campaigned for upholding of UN Security Council resolutions all your life. You don't expect Biden to reverse the Trump position on the Golan Heights, the illegal declaration by the United States that seemed to oppose a UN Security Council resolution, making out that it was Israeli?
No, of course not. I don't expect him to reverse any of that nonsense. I expect him to absolutely abide by the deal of the century. Obviously, I'm pretty happy that that skinny piece of dog poo-poo, Kushner, is no longer in the White House pretending to form foreign policy for the Middle East.
Well, Trump's son-in-law has been in Saudi Arabia reportedly recently, and the USS Nimitz has been heading to the Persian Gulf. I mean, do you think, as some people have said, and I know you have campaigned against atrocities in Gaza, that it was a signal, the assassination of the Iranian scientist, a bit like Cast Lead was on Gaza before Obama was elected president?
You've wiped the smile off my face. These extrajudicial assassinations that the United States commits, but also encourages all over the world. It seems likely that the Iranian physicist was murdered by Mossad or some other Israeli agency, are something that even I find it hard to joke about, because they are so disgusting and obviously so counterproductive to any possibility of the rest of us, those of us who care about human life and about this fragile planet that we all call home, maintaining it for some time in the future. I mean, I sit here before you with only our 10 minutes to deal with. I could sit here for 10 hours and talk to you, Afshin, about the state of the world and Joe Biden and blah and blah and blah.
You mentioned the environment obliquely there. I mean, he said his supporters say he had to mention that he supports fracking as a political thing, and in fact, he will be environmentally conscious.
He has to do as he's effing well told. He always has for his entire career. Joe Biden is the ultimate yes man to corporate America, and he always will be. And for anybody to expect any different from him now he's president of the United States is clearly not very bright, because that ain't going to happen.
Assange was originally offered political asylum in the London embassy of a country then allied to Venezuela in the Bolivarian Revolution. Biden said he was the first Democratic candidate to tweet that Maduro must step aside. Do you expect a stepping up against the Venezuelan government by Washington under a Biden presidency?
Yeah, of course. The president has changed his hat or his name. He's now called Biden. He was called Trump. The policies aren't going to change. The style will change. He will have the big, cheesy, white, expensive American dentistry grin, right? And he won't be quite as vile in public as Donald Trump was. And in consequence, he probably won't be quite as popular, because obviously Trump's vileness went down very well with probably nearly half the population of the United States of America. So the charade that is American politics will continue unabashed. And who knows, maybe in 4 years' time, the DNC, who purport to represent the Democratic Party in the United States of America, will wake up and will support a candidate that represents the needs and aspirations of ordinary working American people. They had one this time. He was called Bernie Sanders. He should have been the candidate. He would have won the election by a hugely greater margin than Joe Biden did. And he would probably move the embassy back to Tel Aviv, and he would try and make inroads into the incredibly divisive economic policy of the current corporate regime that is the United States of America.
Well, the senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, does back Joe Biden. It seems that he has been. And
whatever he is or isn't, Bernie Sanders, he's still a politician, you know. So he can't say the things that I do. I'm not a politician. I'm not looking for votes. I'm not looking for popularity. All I have to do is tell my truth. That's all I have to do. That is my only responsibility as a humble bass player in this complex arena.
Okay, but you're part of the liberal elites that they often talk about on the western eastern coasts of the United States. What about the working classes of the United States?
I want to hear you passing on the nonsense from conservative trolls that I have to put up with on the social media.
Okay, but just finally, I mean, if little is going to change, as you said, different hats, Assange is, what's going to happen to him might not change, all these other issues may not change. What about the working classes of the United States? Do you think their future is somehow going to be entwined with the donations to Biden from Silicon Valley and hedge funds?
What happens to the working class in the United States is entirely peripheral to what goes on in Washington, D.C. That little game that they play, the corporate game that the Democrats and the Republicans are playing in Washington, D.C., has nothing to do with the needs of the working class. So no, of course it won't have any effect on them. They're not going to change policy. The United States isn't going to suddenly become socialist. They're not going to have a Bolivarian revolution and aspire to the heights that Venezuela might aspire to if only America would leave them alone and let them get on with their democratic socialist regime that they have in Venezuela. It's not going to happen in the United States in the next 4 years. The sewers are going to have to be clogged with the aspirations of the very rich to a far even greater extent than they are at the moment, in my view, for anything to happen. Though it has started, Black Lives Matter, the movements, the women's movements are leading the way. So the choir, and by the choir, I mean all those of us who are open to the idea that there might be an alternative to rampant neoliberal capitalism, are beginning to organize ourselves. 250 million of us went on a general strike in India. Read Vijay Prashad in his newsletter. There was a general strike in Greece. All over the world, people are beginning to say, non más, we've had enough, okay? And so the people are beginning to express their feelings, and that is very healthy, and that makes me smile. Good on you, people of India. Farmers, these are farmers. They want to grow food to feed the hungry. That is all they want to do on their 2 hectares of land, or however much it might be. They want the land back from Big Pharma. And I'm not talking about PHAR, I'm talking about the huge industries that are slowly privatizing agriculture and in consequence helping to destroy the planet.
Roger Waters, thank you.